Record, share screen. Okay, welcome to Globetrotter Live Build, Part 4. We'll see how long I can keep track of those numbers. Eventually, I'll just say whatever part, because I don't know. All right, let's run this thing and kind of see where in the world we left off. I have a pretty good idea, but anyway. I need to CD into one of these, backend. CD, let's try it again, Globetrotter backend. Any questions, by the way? Anything on anyone's mind? How's everybody feeling? Et cetera, all those things.
I find all this overwhelming, but at some point I'm hoping it all sink in and make sense when I actually start working on this stuff myself.
Same.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. That's totally fair and understandable 100%. And I could feel for you. I kept trying to call this front end. I got to pick. Okay,
Yeah.
pick some advice. Pick consistent names for things. I go back and forth between front end and client and API and back end, and then I never remember which is which. Okay, so this is my back end, which means I need to Rails S. My front end, so I'm going to npm start stat. It's not going to do it for me. Okay, so I'm running both my front end and back end servers, hopefully. I'm going to make this a little bigger for you, or for everyone. For the royal you. Cool. Let's go to localhost 3000. Let's go to just kind of make things big so we can see. Oh, that's probably plenty big. That's probably good. Starting development server. Starting Rails. Okay. Hopefully reloading soon. Well, it's just taking a second to get going here. So where we left off, we added login functionality, which is really exciting. So let's open up our, where does our, okay, seems like my computer is basically dead. Frozen. Can anyone hear me? I think I'm frozen.
Oh, we hear you.
Okay. Let me quit some stuff. It's running in the background. It just doesn't need to be open. I can't get anything to work. Okay, well, that explains some stuff. Okay. Sorry about this. Aha, something's frozen. Force quit that. Why would iTunes be open? I never open iTunes. Okay, that seemed to be helpful. And now we have login. Now, we kind of started with login, right? There's nothing else in this application showing, at least not currently. So I think we have some options, and I'm going to, to some extent, I'm going to allow user choice here. If we look at our source actions around current user, I've got login and get current user. I don't have logout yet, so I'm going to insist that we add logout functionality before we do anything else. And then from there, we can kind of have, we'll say, you all can help me decide where we're going from there. Where did I put my, don't I have a devlog? There it is. So my devlog lives in my backend for whatever reason. Mock user login. Okay, so did I not build? It looks like I didn't build one of these last time. Let's just duplicate this. And on 6, anyone know what last Friday was? Today's what, about the 10th or 11th? So 11th.
Yes, Friday was the 7th.
So the 7th, we add login functionality function using sessions. Good old sessions, okay? So today, which is the 11th, we are going to add logout functionality. From there, we can add sign up functionality. We can think about our initial layout. We can think, and by when I say think, like we can take action, but we don't have to just think. But I'm just kind of putting some ideas out there, and it doesn't mean this is, we can, like I said, it depends on what you all want to see. We can think about routes, adding React router if we want to. Sign up. There we go. And I think this is a lot to chew on because I do have a hard stop. This is an hour and 15-minute time block. I think that's what, is that what it said on what does it say on the study group page? Does it just say an hour?
Yeah, it just says an hour.
Okay. So I have like, maybe I can go an extra 5 or 10 and that's it. I can't go past 7:10 my time. So an hour from now about. So let's see. Anything else on anyone's mind that you're like, oh, I would love to see this or I'd love to see that? Any thoughts? And look, this is how early on we are. We're not showing much to the user. It doesn't really show how much we've done. We've actually put a lot into our foundation here. But any thoughts from the audience? Like, does anyone see one of these and you're like, oh yes, let's do that, or oh my gosh, this is what we're doing, I'm leaving. Everybody feel okay?
Feeling great.
Okay, cool. Well, let's start here. Let's start with logout. Okay, what does logout mean? And this is like the easiest thing to remember ever.
Aren't you clearing the session?
Yeah, it's just clearing session. That was easy. Okay, and we'll probably use a delete request to log out, something like that. Okay, so first let's look in our app config. Let's start with routes. And so basically I'm going to route app v1 API log out as a delete request to destroy. So as I add this to my routes, I know I need to add it to my sessions controller. And that's an API v1 sessions. Put this to the right. Just so I write this correctly, get current user. Now to end a session, we're going to build a destroy method and delete blah, blah, blah to destroy. What do I need to do here? Somebody told me earlier.
Clear out sessions.
How do I do that?
Session.clear.
That's it. Okay, and the nice thing too here is I don't necessarily have to, I could just do this, right? I think I want to always be communicative with my front end. So let's see what session.clear will return. So if I have like, if I drop into IRB, for example, and what I want to do is I'm going to investigate what does calling clear on a hash do. So I'm going to say IRB hash equals name Alonzo. I don't know where Alonzo came from. Hash.clear. It returns an empty hash. Okay, that seems reasonable, I guess. And so, which is a truthy value, by the way. So I don't know if it really. Let me see actually what I want to see. For some reason, suppose there's an issue with session is not recognized or something. So like, what if I say no hash dot clear? Okay, that throws an error. I don't know. I think session's always going to be here no matter what it is. I think we're always going to be okay with session. So I'm okay with that. So let's just then render JSON. Let's just tell everyone. I need to come up with a good key here, other than error. If I want to use, I could use like we're using FastJSON API as a serializer here, so it might be a good idea to check what the conventions are, right? So we can be very consistent. So if I say FastJSON API, FastJSON API, by the way, if you recall, uses a particular series of keys. And that's not, they didn't just make those up. That's actually, there's an organization. And let me see if I can find, I think they linked in here. basically there's, and I don't know how much of an authority they are, but there's an organization like, let's set some standards around how we return information when we're rendering JSON from an API. And let's just see if I can find JSON API standards or something like that. There it is, JSONAPI.org. So here, this is a spec called JSON. It's coming from an organization called JSONAPI.org. And this is my understanding, it's a respectable organization that's like, let's actually do this thing the right way, where we're going to build return values that are an object with link, data, relationships, comments, all this kind of stuff, sort of, how do I want to say, properly nested and stashed, rather than just like returning whatever JSON chunks we want. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that this exists, and this is kind of where FastJSON API gets its layout from, or at least why it's built that way. And I don't know, it's not really returning data here. It's really just more of a notice. So for now, I'm just going to call it notice. We can always come back and change this. Something like notice successfully logged out, something like that. We can change this, but I'm okay with that. And now I need to build functionality on the front end to do that. So what does logging out mean? But now, how do we make this happen? That's the question now. Any thoughts? I have the ability now to do it. How do I actually get here?
Don't you at least need a logout button? And
Yeah.
like a change associated with that?
Absolutely, 100%. And I think it's a good idea to just build a component around it. We already have one for login. Let's just build a new component called logout. And it's, I think it's wise to build this is the whole point of React, right? We're going to build little tiny chunks of our representations of our DOM in their own components. That way they know their own business. They're easily interchangeable. We can move them around with no trouble. So logout.js, I'm going to steal my login button. Okay, I'm going to put it in my logout. And thankfully, I need very, very little of this. I do need a handle submit, maybe. I don't need this. I do need connect. We're going to make an action called logout. I don't need the login form data. I don't need the updated form. And I'm going to grab logout once I connect to it. I am going to return a form that has only one input, which is going to be a submit, and it's going to say log out. I can still call this handle submit if it's still a local function. I may not even need it. This is meaningless. I don't need any state at all. I don't think so. Which means that my first argument, if I don't need state, is what?
Null.
Null. Why do I need it? Why don't I just do this?
Because then it would look at it as if it's the map state.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This ain't, yep, these are not like key values, these aren't like hashes. These are comma separated order matters. You're exactly right. The only action I need is log out. So
don't you need const is log out, not log in?
Thank you. 100%. And this obviously doesn't make sense right now. And honestly, I don't think I need this anymore because I'm not really sending data. I don't need to send data to this at all. So I really think this can just be log out. Now, as Avi sometimes says, and maybe others, I built the code based on the code I wish I had. I don't have any of this. So in terms of, this is a Redux application. So what's my sort of order of operations? What things do I need to build right now? I still need
an action and a reducer.
Action, and I'll say an action creator, right? I have a reducer, but I need another case statement in which reducer, and by the way, we can glance. So actually, I probably should have left that open. Let's glance at our reducers. Inside of our reducers, I have current user, login form, and users. I'll probably get rid of users, but current user is the one that we're dealing with, right? in my current user, another case statement in my current user reducer. Fetch, well, this is going to be in my action, I guess, action creator. So I really need like probably, I have action creator. I might need 2 action creators, which is very often what we'll do for an asynchronous action like this, where the first one's going to fire an action, the second one's going to do something when we get a response. And in this case, I might not use my response. I might just optimistically log someone out, or just like clear the state, basically. Cool, so let's think about this. I still need, oh, the other thing I want to do, another thing I want to do in components, and we just have app. Oh, I do have get current user. Okay, I did do that. That's great. I didn't realize I did that. Awesome. I was going to say let's make sure we're getting the current user right away, and we are. So another case statement in my current user reducer. I think this should do it. Let's see what happens. So let's think about this, an action creator and a reducer. So I like to open these up kind of together. This is my action creators. Here's my reducer. No, that's my reducer, sorry. Here come my action creators. Split up. Okay, and I like to have this view open this way so that I can see the component that's in question, I guess. Can everyone see this okay? The size is all right? I should have asked that a long time ago.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, so that's built, that's built. Set current user, okay. So now let's think about our action creators. So I know I need an asynchronous one. In fact, let's move this up kind of with its buddy there. And this does not need an argument, and it's going to return. Well, this is a function which will return a fetch. And then right now, like, do we need .thens? I don't know. We'll see. And actually, what's my mistake that I'm already making here? What did I forget to do? What does dunc give us? So this is going to be asynchronous. So what do I need to return here?
A dispatch.
Well, dispatch is involved. What am I returning from this action creator? No longer a plain JavaScript object, but rather what? What is this? What data structure am I returning now from an asynchronous action creator using thunk? No longer an object, but rather?
An action creator.
Exactly, an action creator, which is what data structure?
Function. A
function, right? And returning a function. Okay? And very often we'll just go ahead and use an arrow function, a function that receives dispatch as an argument. Okay, I'm just showing it this way because that's what I'm doing, just translating it from the old-fashioned function definition, function expression to an arrow function. Just for the sake of using arrow functions, you can return, it doesn't matter in this case, whether I use function, the keyword function or an arrow function. Whichever suits your fancy, use it. Whichever one you're comfortable with, use it. Okay, so now I'm gonna return, again, a fetch. And do I need .thens? I might not. Right now, I think I'm good. Like I could just say .then. Well, let's just say we don't do anything with .then right now. Actually, I don't know. We'll see if we want to do anything with a .then. But first, I'm going to send this fetch request. So I'm going to say HTTP localhost 3001 API v1 logout. And I don't. Yeah, I guess I should namespace those because they're going to hit that sessions controller. Okay. But what's the problem here? What else do I need? How did I decide to set up my routes?
Wouldn't you need the options in your method to destroy it?
Yes, so I need, what's one option that we talked about from last time that I'm not going to include all the time here?
No cores or cores?
Not cores, credentials. Credentials include, that sends my cookies back, and method. What kind of method am I sending? We decided to make this route as a delete request, didn't we? Thought we did. Did
Yes.
we not? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, so now I'm importing logout. That is now actually an action creator, which gives me now I need to. I'm using this for in my maps dispatch to props object, and that should give me this now as props, which I'm destructuring and using as a callback. What else do I need to do here though on the front end that I have not yet done? How about actually getting rid of the current user that's sitting in my Redux store? Does that sound reasonable? Everybody okay with that? Is this surprising people, or how are we feeling? Like I'm clearing my session. That's all this is going to do here. But I still on the front end need to take care of business. And taking care of business means clearing out the user. Right? And by the way, like, there's something we're missing too, by the way. This seems so simple, but something's missing, I think. We'll talk about that in a second. And I'll put a little note here. Session.clear, but like, actually wait, maybe nothing is missing actually. That should do it. We'll see, we'll see. Okay, so let's just see what happens here. So what would clearing the user look like? Oops. I'll say it's called like clear current user, or even just like logout success, but I'm not really like necessarily waiting for logout success. So I'm just going to say clear current user. And it really doesn't need anything else, any information, does it? Okay, that's what I want the user to be once we log out, null. I could choose to use an empty object. I'd have to do some research to see like who agrees with me on that and whether that's null is okay here. I like null because it's a falsy value. And I like to be able to just look at the current user and say like, if current user, then I know I'm logged in. That's my rationale here with actually changing data types from an object to a primitive, null. Besides a case like this, I would say you should keep your object types like with the same thing for your initial state as it's going to be throughout its lifetime. So I don't know if this is a violation of a Redux principle or a React principle. I'd have to look it up, like do a little more research, but I like doing it this way personally. So now type clear current user is going to return null. That's going to update now my state. So I could choose to dispatch that before or after my fetch request. The way I think about logging out, if the user has clicked that log out button, they intended to log out, and we should just go ahead and clear them, log them out right away on the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and right away, not even wait for my dispatch, I'm just going to dispatch clear current user, which I have to invoke it to get my action, which is just that. Okay? Everybody okay with what I just did? Anyone not okay with what I just did? Anyone have questions? Oh, well, there's chat. Sorry, I didn't do the chat yet. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Optimistic versus pessimistic. Yes, so optimistic is I'm going to do something up front. Now, usually, like with logging out, it's not really so much optimistic as it is like we're just making a choice to do it. Optimistic, think along the lines of like creating or editing something. I could, with Redux especially, but even without, excuse me, with Thunk especially, but even without Thunk, I could choose when I want to make changes to the state of the application on the front end. Because remember, when we have a React front end and an API backend or any kind of React front end, we always have to, whether it's Redux or not, we have to handle the front end kind of differently. So we're always changing the back end and the front end. It's two different things that we have to change. So optimistic would be whenever the user makes a change and triggers an event on the front end, we're going to go ahead and update the front end. right away. We're not going to wait for a return from the backend. Pessimistic is, hold on, let's make sure the server is running and the response we said works and everything was hunky-dory on the back end. That way our database is our source of truth. We don't want what the user's seeing on the screen to be out of sync with the database if something went wrong. And so pessimistic would be, hold on, no, let's not clear the current user until we get an appropriate, this isn't a great example because it's logging out, but let's not clear the current user until our fetch request resolves and we know everything is okay. And I would do it there instead. But in this case, I'm saying, you know what, this is logging out, so let's just log them out. When they click the button, they're gone. Cool. And Alex, I see that you correctly answered function there, I think, when I was asking about what do we have to return. Cool. And I can get rid of these parentheses because I only have one argument. And now let's think about, if we look at our source and our app.js, which is really the only place where anything is happening right now. Right now, I just have login. And what I think I might do is say something like, let's see, I have get current user here. And right now, even though I have get current user, can app see the current user? Anyone? Can app see the current user right now? Does app have any knowledge of what the current user looks like or is or isn't? Export const. Anyone answer that question? So Redux knows about the current user. There it is. Current user is Nadia right now. Nadia is logged in. How funny that Nadia is logged in. So look at that. We logged in, what, last Friday? And look at that, you're still logged in. So that's pretty cool, right? Maybe we want to make that expire at some point, but for now, that's pretty cool. So the question was, does app know anything about this current user that Redux knows about? So let's look in our React dev tools. And I'm gonna actually, well, provider is pretty close to app. There's app right there. All it has as a prop is get current user, and it definitely has nothing, no information. There's no state, there's nothing else here. So the answer is no. How do I tell app about the current user? Because and the point right now is, the reason that I only want to show the login button if we're not logged in, and I want to show the logged out button if we are logged in, right? This is a ternary situation, or a yes or one or the other. How do I connect app with the actual current user state? We have to map, we already mapped dispatch to props to get the current user, which makes a change in the state, and that loads our current user. But how do we actually then get that user, the get current user loads into Redux store? So it's not map dispatch to props, it's map what to props. This is functionality that I'm getting with map dispatch to props. I already did that. I need map state to props. So I need to declare a map state to props function. It's a convention of what we call it anyway, which receives what as an argument?
State.
State, yes. Whose state? What state is this? The state of app?
State of store.
State of store, yes. State of Redux, that's right. Okay, so I'm just going to return an object, return an object whose keys or whatever I want to call this. I can just call it user, or I can call it current user if I want. I like current user, I guess. And the nice thing about calling it current user is that's what it's called in the Redux store. If I look back at my Redux store, whoops, not audits, Redux. If it's called current user, then I can use the shorthand, and this is kind of nice, I think. And now instead of null, I actually have a map state to props. And now I have available to me a current user under props. So now I can say, hey, is there a current user? And this is where I like using null. If there is a current user, I want to display log out. Otherwise, I want to display log in. This is a class, so it has to be props.currentUser. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I didn't grab log out. Didn't I grab log out? Did I grab log out somewhere else, or I just never did? I guess I never did. That's okay. Now I have it. Props is not defined. Oh, thank you. No, I can't. Sorry. Okay. Does anyone want to correct what I said a few minutes ago or a moment ago? Try to move too fast there. Sorry. What did I just do wrong? What did I say so wrong? I said something that was so wrong, and hopefully somebody was like, I don't think you can do that, Howard. Because you're right, I can't.
You need to call it from state.
I do need to call it from state. Although, I do want to show you kind of a neat trick. If I'm only connecting one piece of state, and I know this incoming state argument is an object, what technique could I use to actually make this work?
Deconstruct it.
I could deconstruct it. So I could then say current user. And I can do this because I know the incoming argument is an object, state, coming from Redux. And I know it has a property called current user. And that, so in other words, state is going to be whatever it is, and then including current user. You know, whatever's in there. And just going to comment all this out. Well, I'm not building this very well for readability's sake, but you get the idea, okay? Because this is the incoming object, I can grab its properties. And now I can actually do this fancy schmancy thing I wanted to do. And hopefully, props is not defined. That's because, did anyone else anyone hearing my misspoken words here? I said, this is a class, so it has to be props.currentUser. It has to be what? It's a class, so it has to be
Please.
this.props.currentUser. You guys got to keep me in line here. Okay, and so now I can see log out because Nadia is logged in. Now there's a couple things I want to see. I want to check all three things right now. I want to check my network to make sure I got the appropriate response. I want to check my Redux store to make sure my store changed. I want to check React to make sure that it knows about what it's supposed to know about. Let's first look before I press log out. My state has a current user of Nadia. That looks correct, right? Current user, Nadia. If I look in React, if I look in app now is connected to Redux, which means I should see a prop of current user. There it is. That current user should be populated with Nadia. There she is. That's all good news. And finally, I'm going to watch my console. And I'm interested in the network tab. So now I'm going to click log out. Okay, there's my log out. That's what I wanted to see. Headers. That was a delete request with a 200 response. Ooh, I should have made that explicit. Sessions controller, render JSON, blah, 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 status. I think 200 is okay on this. I wonder if there might be a more conventional status for this, but 200 I'm okay with for now. So now let's go back to React. Current user is now null, perfect. Let's go back to Redux. Clear current user is now null. Success, right? We're good to go. Seemingly anyway, that seemed to work. Any questions about that? Now I have my login form back.
Can we take one step back when you added this .props, the current user? Because you were saying, because app's a class component.
Because app is a class.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a class that I have componented mount. That's the only reason this is even a class at all, is because I want my lifecycle method here. When this thing mounts as the sort of the mastermost component, that's when I want to get my current user. And otherwise, this could just be a function. Now, I think this kind of belongs maybe in like a nav bar. So I might think about think about refactoring this to a nav bar of some sort, right? To have like log in, log out kind of across the top or something, like not exactly just at the very top. Cool, so notice that when my component mounted get current user, somewhere in there, I think I have a console log if there is no current user, which is, let's see. Ooh, that must actually have caused a does that cause a JavaScript error? No, it's this one, user.error, if user.error, that's it. So it's coming back with an error message when I don't have a user. That's what was happening there. Cool. Which came from right here. So I think this feels pretty good as far as logging in, which is creating a session, getting the current user if there is one when we mount, and then being able to log out. That feels pretty good right now. Even though these components are sitting kind of top level inside of app, which is going to need to change. For now, that feels okay. Let's look at our dev log. First, let's make some commits. Exit this. Let's see. So in app controllers, API, v1 sessions, I add sessions destroy for logout. I added logout route. I updated my dev log. Okay. On my front end, I added a logout. I can add more than this, I think. Git add, I'm just going to add the whole thing. Source app, JS, git add. This is too big of a commit, but it's all around the same functionality, so I'm just doing it. Source, here's current user, add component, action, creators, and reducer to implement logout. Cool. All right, let's look at our dev log. Okay. I'm going to say, for now, done. For now, later we will move this component around. Okay. So now we can think about signing up, our initial layout, or routes. Any of these more appealing to others, to anyone? Like right now, we're not even displaying like a welcome. I think displaying like a welcome message or something to our current user might be nice. But we don't have to start with that. Like any of these look more appealing than something else? Do we want to go ahead and be able to sign up from the ground here, from the front end? And just kind of to think about what we need, I'm gonna have to build a form, right? Add another asynchronous set of action creator, or a set of action creators, asynchronous, and then its corresponding front end update. For initial layout, we might think about like a main container, like a nav bar, any other little side containers we might want, or something like that. And routes doesn't really make sense to think about until we've done line 138. So it doesn't really, I don't think, make sense to add routes until, I don't think it makes sense just yet. I think you need like a little bit more of an initial, like where do we want to put what before I can start thinking about where my routes look like. So I think one of these two. Any crowd choices, crowd favorites here between these two things?
I vote for layout.
Okay, initial layout.
Agreed.
Okay, I mean, one vote. I thought one vote was going to do it, but 2 votes definitely does it. Let's think about our layout. I don't have, and I wish I had like a better tool than that mock flow. I mean, I wish I knew how to use a wireframe tool a little better and faster. I'm not very fast with it. So like, I could just do, let's see, where's my others? More, stop share. This is by no means like the best thing ever to do, but I could do something like sharing a whiteboard. Can everyone see this whiteboard?
Yep.
Okay, even if I move it up here, make it big, you're still seeing the whiteboard, right?
Yes.
So I don't know, like, what do we think? What kind of a layout? Just think about any kind of stuff that pops in your mind. This is user or what do you call it? Crowd choice, our choice, like whatever we want to do.
Well, how about a basic when someone well, I guess pre-sign in, it's like welcome to globetrotter.
Okay.
And then once you're signed in, you know, welcome, you know, whoever the person is, their name.
Why isn't this letting me choose? That's really weird. Oh, I know why. Maybe up here. Why this is not letting me choose the shapes? What the heck? That's weird. I've never had this issue before. It's not letting me. So if it's not letting me choose shapes, then I'm just going to get out of this. So let's just. All right, never mind. Never mind with Zoom whiteboard. Let's go back to just kind of what you just mentioned. So let's think about like, how about thinking about at least about like a nav bar and a main container? Can we start there? That makes sense? Or you help me out. Like, what do you guys think? What do you all have in mind? Right now we've got this, which isn't so great. Like what I'm thinking is something like nav, like a main container. And these don't have to be like what we call these things. If we want a footer, we don't have to have a footer. And then inside a main container, we might do something like main container might have a couple different components in it. Okay. So what do we think? Like, does this sound pretty reasonable, or does anyone have something in mind where you're like, wait, no, this is something I want to try or something I want to see? Another decision we have to make is when might we think about, and this I didn't write this down, but when might we think about do we want to think about bringing in a third-party CSS, or do we want to stay with all custom? I don't care. Third-party CSS, either way, we're going to have to spend a little extra time, right? To add CSS just takes time. If anyone who's like added CSS, libraries are helpful, but sometimes you can't get it perfect with a library, and adding your own takes time too. So this is going to take time one way or the other. We don't have to do it now. We can do this at the very end. We can build full functionality, then add CSS. We could add it as we go along. The only advantage to adding it up front is a lot of times these third-party libraries will offer components that you will want to use. But again, you could swap those out as well. Things like buttons and links, or not links, links comes from router, but things like buttons and forms and whatever. Thoughts? Just want to kind of get going and think about like the nav and saying welcome user, and then thinking about loading up our whatever it is we want to initially load from the back end.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so let's go that way. So then let's think about, I think, makes sense to use libraries. Yeah, give us some exposure to that too. Yep, we can do that. Oh, custom CSS. So we've got a vote for custom and a vote for external libraries. We can do either one or both. And like in terms of adding a nav bar, that's something that might come from a external library too. Let's start this session off without bringing in the external libraries yet. We can think about that maybe next time. And I can always translate like what I build by hand into an external library version, although I wouldn't want to go crazy building out a whole application before I do that. Cool, so I think nav is what really should have like the welcome user and login, logout functionality. So I'm really gonna create a new component called nav.js. And This is just going to be like a little nav bar across the top. I think maybe I should call it nav bar actually. Nav bar, like that. And I'm just going to steal the boilerplate, probably from logout, that'd be a little easier. Nav. Nav does not need logout, does need connect. This is going to be called nav bar. It's not going to be a form. It's going to be a div. Okay. What does nav need to know about? Basically everything that, some of what anyway, app needs to know about. It needs to know about the current user.
Yeah.
So let's give it that. And I can take this comment if that's helpful. Okay. This can go back to null. That's not going to be there at all. This is not going to be nav bar. These two will now go to nav. Didn't I change this name to nav bar? What happened? I think I might have hit save, and that doesn't save when I do that. I do that frequently. I don't need log out.
Why don't you need logout?
Did I? Because I'll show you here in just a second. I am going to render the logout component. Right, the same logic I had before. Is there props dot current user? If that exists, we're going to do log out. Otherwise, we're going to do log in. Log out of itself. This is a component, remember. And if we look at log out already grabs that callback. I don't need to pass it from a parent to a child. Log out takes care of it all on its own with this connect right here. There it is. Nav bar has no functionality around logging out. The logout component, which lives inside of nav, does. Okay, user, so I know which of these two things to display. And I think I'd also like to return something like welcome. I don't know. We could call it a header.
Howard, the second part of the ternary, isn't it log in?
If there is a current user, then I want to log out. Thank you. 100% correct. Something looks wrong there though. Oh, I need props. Well, I could also, again, destructure, which I think I'm going to do. I know I'm going to get an object called props as my argument, or an object as my argument. So I can just do that. Okay, let's see. Navbar, these things don't exist yet. So I'm going to wrap these in comments. Did I get that wrong? Oh. No, but I put one there. Okay. Save that, save that. What are the chances that I didn't screw something up? Anyone want to put money on it? I'm going to say there's no way this compiled. Okay. Parsing error. Somewhere around those comments that I made. I could just get rid of that. Like I don't have to put these, putting these comments here might be more trouble than it's worth. Now, navbar is not defined. Okay, so import navbar from /components /navbar. Okay, navbar is not exported. So inside of navbar, export default, connect null log out.
It's because of the curly brackets when you imported it.
Import.
So if you go to app where you imported it, It doesn't take curly bracket because it's an export default.
It's because it's a default export. You're absolutely right. Thank you. Component slash login from app dot slash component slash navbar dot JS. Oh, right, because so now we're just in the same place here. Okay. And voila, no one's logged in. Oops. Looks like we didn't quite get the syntax right there. Let's check that out on navbar. So it's a div where.
Where is current user coming from? Because you're not passing it as props from apps.
So I have connect, and I've declared a map state to props function, which grabs current user from the Redux state. I just copied and pasted this whole thing from what I had in app because I don't need it in app anymore. But I do need it here. And the answer is from nowhere because I didn't do this. And I don't need null as a second argument. So the answer is nowhere because this line was not correct.
How about the one in line 6 as well? Isn't that whatever is passed from the parent rather than...
Sorry, isn't that what?
The one in line 6, the current user in line 6, is that coming from map state to props as well? Or because
Yes.
I thought that came from parents, whatever you put in there.
So I didn't pass anything from app to navbar. I passed no props here. But I used connect, and I built a map state to props, and I said, let me grab current user from the state, from the Redux store. That's the property I want, both the name and the value, because I destructured it here. So I can do that. And I'm exporting a connected version of navbar with current user now as a prop.
Oh,
And
so
props,
it knows to access this dot props.
right, so and there's no this, because this is just a functional component. So there's no this, it's just props.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I could call it whatever I wanted, right? I could call this carrots. I could say carrots, and then carrots dot current user if I wanted to, right? Besides my syntax is wrong. That's because I need to wrap this. Because this is some JavaScript going on here. And I can say, and like, honestly, like I could, this is really almost two different things. But I could also use another ternary if I wanted to. And I could say something like, really just duplicate this line. I could say, welcome carrots dot current user, otherwise nothing. Okay. So there should just be a login form if I didn't screw that up again, which looks like I did. Or I just didn't save it. Or I did save it. Returning a div, wrapping a JSX. Is there a current user? If so, give me that. Otherwise, give me empty string. And if there's a current user, I want to be able to log out. Otherwise, log in. What's going on here? Anyone see what I messed up? Development server disconnected. What? That was weird. Now it says no one's logged in. So now if I log in, it says welcome object. Okay, so let's see, carrots.currentuser.name. And now we should have welcome Nadia. Okay. Is everybody okay with that, with what we just did?
So Howard, if you took carrots out and just use current user, you could just use current user in the ternary and then.
Yep, so I can destructure this. So this is an object, right? Whatever I want to call it, usually props, not carrots. That's silly. I just want to show you I can call it whatever I want. If I destructure this, then I can get rid of carrots dot everywhere I had it. And now I can just refer to current users directly. Nothing should change. I feel like I'd rather kind of have these spread out. So what I want to return is a div with a class name of maybe nav. And I could do something like, this should really be wrapped as like, I don't know, a little p or something like that. And then that's nothing. And if I do that, if I give class name, something like .nav, what is it, display flex? Is that my, uh-oh, screwed something else up. Oh, then I no longer need that because this is JSX now. I just need that. Why does that look weird? Doesn't look right. I'm not the CSX Jedi by any means. Display flex, doesn't that automatically give me like, oh, I need, what is it, the like, I might just need that, but I also think I need like a
flex direction maybe?
Yeah, what is that, flex direction? Do I want row or column? I think I want row. Did that pick up? No, it still looks weird, doesn't it? Let's just see if we got anything here. If we even pick that up. Yeah, that is picking up. So I'm missing something here. Does anyone know what it is off the top of their head? I am picking up the right. I am picking this up.
Maybe try with the console, with the inspector. Play around with it there. It's easier.
Like, just like inspect this thing.
That's what I usually do. I just change the settings in the inspector and see what it looks like.
Yes, there's the font, the margin. If I look at this thing, I should be able to see down here, styles. It's displaying. This is grayed out. Why is that grayed out? Yeah, something is, I'm not sure. Well, I can look that up. Maybe we should bring in an external library.
Why don't you try flex direction column since you had row?
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, see that does. So I think row. I think we want to see things like across, right? I think we could do a little bit more too, like basically tell that we want it completely spread out. We want each element to take up like the whole space, maybe. I don't want to spend too much time like focusing on CSS without. I'd rather like do a little research and play with what I want and bring it back knowing what I want and kind of spend time exploring. Unless you all would rather explore CSS right now, we can totally do that too. Or we can at least pick a favorite color. Nadia, you're signed in. What's your favorite color?
Oh, red.
Okay, awesome. So we're already in the right place here. In fact, let's see what we can say. Something like strong. Okay. So the fact that it was a P is what's kind of doing this, and we could add some margin and some padding so that it doesn't look so weird like that. But if we do log out, we go back to the form. If we go back to Nadia and password, we log in, we're back there. So this is looking good. And like, what do we want this main container to do? So we don't really have a main container yet. I could add a container. I could add another folder. I could just say new file. I could just say main container.js. This is not a convention or like something you need to do or whatever. It's just something I do sometimes, main container. So import React. from React. That gives us our JSX. Export default main container, const main container, which is going to be a function that returns some stuff. And probably like a big old div with a class name of. I actually like to call these, I like to give the main, this is just my own, I mean, it's not my own thing. There's a lot of people who do this. I like to give every component, the main thing that's being returned from each component, I like to give a class of the name of the component spelled the exact same way. I don't know if I've actually done that all along. I think I have actually, class name. Let's do actually navbar. And I don't really need app to be in a div. I don't know. I think that's fine. Maybe it should be actually. Okay. And let's go main container. Okay, we're going to import that thing. Main container. And what are the things, what else do we want to sort of load on initial load here? If we think about this as a travel app where, and we can look at the relationships as well. We can talk about like, what is it that we want to display? What do we want to load? Do we want to load our trips? Do we want to load like the top reviewed things, locations, attractions? And we can do any of those or all of those, right? We could do like a little spot over here that says, hey, here's the latest review from so-and-so, and here's your list of things. Whatever you want, right? The sky's the limit. We can build this any direction that we'd like to see it go. We can make it go that way. Let's see. I am the main container. Excuse me. No way. Sometimes we get things right, somewhat. Let's see. App.css. This is now navbar. So Nadia is red again. Oh, there we go. This doesn't really look great, but that's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. CSS has been a nightmare. Yeah, CSS is in my opinion, CSS is like a time sucker. It's like you have this great idea in your mind. You're like, oh, I'm going to make it look like just like this. And like 5 hours later, like you've been struggling with the same tiny, like you just can't get like that. It's like, oh no, I want it like that. Nope. Okay, like it can be a pain. Even with libraries, it can be like that. So I feel your pain, Alex. I think everyone does. Anyone who plays with CSS and is like, what? I've never had an issue like trying to get CSS to do exactly what I want. You're a liar, or you're crazy, or you're a savant, or something. You're some extreme thing, whatever that is. I'm not calling you a liar. If you say you love CSS, that's great. But yeah, so hopefully you can all relate to that because that's the experience that I think most devs have had. And CSS is great. Like it does what we need it to, but sometimes it takes time. Okay. Cool. So let's maybe at least think about like getting something, like some group of things maybe, or like a list. I don't know. What do we think? What do we want to see when we first log in? We know we're logged in. That's cool. We know Nadia is here. That's awesome. On our back end, like we know that Nadia has some stuff. We could peek at our models if we want to remember our relationships. A user has a hometown, has trips, has visits, attractions, locations, and comments. Like, what do we want to do here?
I think we could show locations, attractions, and maybe trips. I can't remember what trips was for.
Yeah, it looks like trips has a lot because it looks like we have visits, attractions, and locations through trips. So as far as like what belongs to us. So like if I want to see Nadia's visits, attractions, and locations, those are all under trips. Or they could be anyway if I want them to be. So let's see, let me just double check too in the database to make sure that we're not that we have something that's going to work for us. Rails C, Nadia, user.first, Nadia.trips. See if she's at least gone someplace. She's got 2 trips. That's good enough for me. So I don't know what serializers we have built yet. I don't remember if we built more than one or if we built any at all. App, serializers, user. Okay, so let's see, when we're getting the user, right now we're only getting the user on sign up, or sign in, excuse me, and we're getting a simplified version of the user. And that makes sense, I think. When we go to log in and log out, like we don't need to grab a tremendous amount of information unless we know when we log in, we want that information right away. It might make more sense to like send subsequent requests to get the bits of information we want around that user later down the road. And just kind of to reiterate something we said, or I said a while back, when I built, I should say, like I'll take full credit here for this mess of routes. There's no way we're going to keep all these. I just wanted to get things going here. For now, what I could do is something like and the question is like, do we ever want to view something under users in general? Or are we always going to be around ourselves as a user? Like, do we need nested routes under user? Or do we just, is it implied that we're logged in and we're getting our stuff? Like, should I ever be able to see everyone's trips? These are questions, these are not like, there's no right or wrong. It's like, what do we think about using this app? Do we want someone else to see our trips? Do we not? Just our comments and our reviews? Like what do we want to allow? What do we not want to allow? And so suppose that we wanted to load our trips. We have to think about not just the front end, but also the back end. What route are we sending this fetch request to? Do we nest this, right? Do I say resources trips? This gives us a lot of stuff. And that means that we'd have to be nesting these fetch requests under a particular user. That's fine. Or we could say, no, we're always going to have a current user and we never need to see trips outside of the context of a user. And so we don't even need to nest it because it's implied. What do y'all think? We could start with this. And let's start with, only build out what we need at first. So first, let's start with index. So let's say we want to index under users. And so if we start with our backend, let's make sure we can get what we want to get. Under controllers, API, v1. This would be trips controller on index. Basically, we want to know, like, is there an incoming user ID? And but the question is, whoops. But does that matter? Do we always want just current users trips? And if that's true, like if line 7 is the answer is yes, whoops, then maybe we don't need them to be nested at all. And this just becomes current user.trips. What do we think? Any thoughts?
I would think you would just want you as a current user in your trips when you log in.
Okay, if that's the case, then I'm going to back off, and I don't disagree at all. I think that makes sense. I'm going to back off this for now. Save that, and make sure that our controller is actually only returning the current user's trips. And basically, if the current users exist, right? So this is now needs to be if logged in, then we're doing this. And we definitely want, this is, right now, this is, we don't have a trip serializer, so that's a problem. But we do want an else statement here, render JSON error. You must be logged in to see trips. Let's just, like, for now, like, because we're out of time, let's just see what we can do to I don't even know if we're going to get this quite going. Yeah, I actually need to put a stop right now because it's 10 after, and I have another meeting in a couple of minutes. But we're to the point where like, okay, let's just mark ourselves in the dev log where we are. Just updated trips index controller action so that we can get the users, we'll say current users, trips on load. So next up, add actions, reducers, state, and props needed for this to happen. Right, so make all this happen for this stuff. Okay. Any questions about anything we've talked about so far? We're kind of coming to a rude stop here, but we need to because we got to go. Anyone have questions about anything we've done, the way we've done anything, why we've done anything we've done before we head out?
No, all good. Thank you.
Cool. Well, I think this is at least a win, right? We have the ability to log in, log out. That's nice. And next up, we'll start adding some more functionality around like viewing a user's things and then build from there. Awesome. Well, thank you all for your participation, for your questions,
Thanks, Howard.
for being here. Absolutely. I'll stop the share. I'll stop the recording, and I will bid you a good evening.